Oh, hi YouTube. We had a little blacksmithing weekend in my backyard, and we also had the local Prairie du Chien Vili Lua rendezvous this weekend. And I managed to get a couple of things, some buggy wrenches, some horseshoes. I got 3 different small ball peen hammerheads, and I got 3 farrier's rasps. And one of my friends, Randall, came down from Black River Falls area, and he brought me a gift. It's kind of a thing we do at these blacksmith gatherings. We always bring some odds and ends steel for our fellow smiths, and he had this old set of wagon springs from, an antique wagon, and they were literally buried in a junk pile. And he brought me a set because he knew I was looking for some to repair a leg vise that I got from a dear friend who passed away. And so he remembered that, and I really appreciated it. We didn't get a lot done this weekend. It was so blazing hot out. So what time we did have, well, we had couple of umbrellas, and over here at the old playset that's coming down, Randall had actually a tarp just strung out and down to give him some nice shade over there. And that's more or less where he set up his forge area. And it was convenient because it's right beside the back gate, and he could pull up and drop his stuff off. There's my clunky forge. It worked. And then my young apprentice, haha, term used loosely because the kid can teach himself just about as much. He was using the forge that Heath used last fall, early fall, when we had the hammer in. And the goofy tube that actually hooks up to a hairdryer and a rheostat for airflow control. And he was working on a knife made from an old file. And he was using my old anvil, my little 60-pound defunct anvil that it was the first real anvil I ever had. My SCA friends know him as Lucky because it's painted on the side. Long story. But the project I was working on did not get to complete it. Like I said, it was just so terribly hot. We were all burning out. We were guzzling water like crazy, but we were starting to burn out. But I was working on an egg spoon. And I'm hoping here in a week or so I'll get the wild hair and finish it up. So, that kind of gives you a rough idea of what it is. It's kind of my prototype. I've never made one before. So, and we had planned on this monster dirt box forge. Randall had a very large piece. It was over a foot long, and looked like it had to be approximately 1.5-inch diameter chunk of wrought iron. And in his lever action pan forge, he wasn't quite getting the heat he needed, and he says, well, I'm ready to hammer on something. Do you have a forge that's bigger? And I says, well, if we don't, we can make one. So Friday night, we were outside and just kind of hanging out, and I started taking actually boards off of the old playset over there and some other odds and end timbers that I had, and I just recycled nails and screws, and I'm not a woodworker, you can tell, but we just started hammering that thing together, and for all intents and purposes it should function as planned. I mean, we got that far. We put bricks and stuff in it, and put a wall around it. Right in the center is actually the old lining from my old forge, my old dirt box forge that was over there, and broke it up. It was composed of just, standard dig it out of the ground clay and like one, I don't know if it was like 10-pound bag, I think it was, of the cheap kitty litter and, whatever filler, but that's more or less what's down in the bottom there. And then we had some odds and end bricks laying around. Randall had a couple of broken fire bricks, and we just added everything to the mix. So at some point, you know, it was meant to be just a temporary setup. So I'm gonna, until it can actually be fired, we're gonna try to keep some of the weather out of it. We're expecting rain tomorrow. Thinking that's about an inch, inch and a half. No, that's about a 1-inch black iron pipe running in for the Tuir. Hook up a hairdryer and away we go. Well, and an extension cord. But you know, the weekend was not a complete bust. It was fellowship, if nothing else. And so it was a good time. I am so happy to have these springs. He gave me some very strange cutoffs of stainless steel that I may end up sending at least a couple of them off to Big Dog Forge so he can do like some canister Damascus, because this is an oddball. It's a specific type of, I don't know, it's stainless steel tubing, but it's like instead of 304 or, you know, 316 or whatever, it's 310. And from whatever thing I understand out of the whole thing, it has to be shipped in from overseas because the US doesn't make this variety of stainless steel, or we just don't carry it. And plus I'm thinking it's probably a metric size. And this was actually the section that was clamped as it was being cut, so that's why it was a cutoff and discarded. So, you know, like I says, great weekend, long, tiring, hot, but you know how it goes. Weather happens, so does life. So I'm gonna try to do a cameo. Nah, don't do it that way. That way. Anyway, Jason69, Hammer On Brothers. Peace out.